Hello everyone, this is Annie from Eagle Eyes. Thanks for tuning in to my channel again. And as always, I would like to ask all of you that are tuning in to please like, share, comment, and subscribe to my channel. Of course, if you appreciate my messages and what my channel stands for, then of course the right thing to do is to share, to like, and to subscribe. I'm not begging, I'm not pleading, and I'm not demanding. All I'm saying is if you actually appreciate my messages and my channel, then view, like, subscribe, share, and make some kind of constructive comment. Now, today my message to you is to ask yourself the question, um, have I been leading myself based most on my ego? Because the ego is very destructive and very misleading, and it gets us into trouble. The ego leads us into war, arguments, fights, destruction, um, undisciplined thinking, undisciplined lives. Um, Even children have egos, and I believe that the ego is the root of all evil. They say money is the root of all evil. However, before us human beings created the rule of money, created the value, and before we went after money and what it can do for us, we first had to start with, how we value money, how we look at money, um, how we value ourselves and view ourselves. And that all comes mainly from the ego, because people who, let's say people who have tons of money, and there's nothing wrong. I'm not speaking against people who have a lot of money, who are millionaires and billionaires. It's not, money is not the problem. Being rich and being of abundance is not the problem, because there's different kinds of wealth and abundance, and health, wealth, and happiness. The problem is when our ego becomes so enlarged that it gets us in trouble, and it takes us to a place of mental illness where if we do have a lot of money and an abundance of money, it's just never enough. Or we always have to be the biggest, the brightest, the best, more powerful, bigger than others. And there's always this constant competitive drive, and of having always to be, wanting up each other, and power struggle with even the household. Let's start with the household, between the mother and the father. And then as the children grows up, you have power struggles there. And every child wants to be the favorite child. If there's more than one a child, they want to be the favorite child. They want to be more favored. They want to be more liked or loved, or admired. One parent wants to be admired more than the other, loved or liked more than the other. So we constantly have these power struggles, first starting with our own homes, and then spreading into society. There's a constant, I would just bring it down to the level of power struggle. So it isn't just of our governments, of society. It starts in the home. There's always a power struggle, no matter where you are in the workplace. There's always a power struggle, and most of the time, when any of us, want to be the biggest, the brightest, the best, the richest, the most powerful, and we are coming from a place of greed and of wanting power and influence, and so much status. Most of the time, it's really coming from the ego, which really gets us in trouble. And please don't get my message wrong. There's nothing wrong with having abundance in every sense of the word. What abundance is, not just financial abundance, but peace, joy, contentment, happiness, health, wellness, any kind of abundance is okay. But when we take it to a level where it's unhealthy and it looks like it's mental illness and it's insanity, then we have to question ourselves. Sometimes we have to, like, um, maybe just be quiet and say, um, ask ourselves questions. Is this who I really am? And most people don't even realize, who do have this egoic problem, don't even realize that they have an ego problem, or to even acknowledge that they have a problem, or that they're leading from their ego and not who they really are as a person. And most people don't realize that we're all just spiritual beings leading really from the heart and the soul and the spirit. That's our true and our authentic self, is the heart, the soul, and the spirit. But because we have to deal with each other, flawed human beings, all of us leading by egos, and mostly that egos, and so we feel the need to protect, to defend, to uphold this image of who we think we are. And a lot of times, it's not even just the ego, it's like we feel the need to defend, to protect, because of other egos. We become our ego because of other egos that we have to deal with in order to defend, to protect, to be, and even maybe even to be our authentic selves. We have to put forth this face, this ego, this image, so that we can actually be who we are. Sometimes is to defend, to protect, to fight other egos so we can be our true and authentic self. Sometimes it's not even just wanting to be a big egoic person, just, being a blown up super ego, and that's just who we are. A lot of times, most of us also, we are defending and protecting our authentic selves, and it makes us have to create this big ego because we have to fight other egos. So I wouldn't say money is the root of all evil. I would say that the ego is the root of all evil, is the ego, because the ego is not really who we are. Our hearts and souls and spirit is who we really are, not the ego. The ego gets us in trouble. The ego creates wars. The ego creates this mental illness of lack and never enough. And I have to be bigger and better and smarter and brighter and richer and have the bigger title. And all of that is the ego, and this constant competition and one upping each other, that is the ego. And it's sort of a mental illness, to be honest with you, whoever is listening. The ego goes into this never ending drive of mental illness. And sometimes when the ego gets itself in too much trouble, it has to ask itself, well, what's happening here? Let me reflect and review. Who am I? What am I doing? And this happens in different ways. When we get into different areas of our lives that we don't really like and where it's going, that's when usually we stop and think and question ourselves. And we don't say we're questioning our ego. We say, what am I really doing? You know, what am I really saying? Who am I? But we don't realize that it's really our ego that we're questioning sometimes when we get into a certain point in our lives and we want to know, you know, where am I leading? Where am I going? What am I doing? Why am I here? It's really the ego. It's really the ego that we're questioning, because the ego constantly gets us in trouble. So, um, my message to you today is, uh, make sure that you are not letting your ego make the best of you, in a negative way. I don't mean make the best of you in a positive way, but make sure that your ego is not taking control of your life in a negative way, negatively impacting. And your ego, you may think that you're actually doing yourself a great favor, but Your ego can get yourself in trouble and other people in trouble, and it's just a disaster. It's a very difficult thing to keep under control, but I guess it really helps to um, have a quiet time for yourself every day and meditate and really self reflect and self reflect while you're self actualizing and becoming all you can be and the best you can be. Also self reflect and see, where are you leading from? Are you leading from your ego or your authentic self? And do you feel that you have to lead from your ego and protect and defend in order to be who you are or to become your self actualized self? So my message today is, ask yourself, am I leading from my ego? Is my ego getting me in trouble? Um, is it really helping me? Have some quiet time and sit and think and ask yourself, how many times have my ego gotten me in trouble? Is it really a good place for me to lead from? And remember that most of the evils and the wrongdoings of our society is really coming from the evil of the ego, not money, because before we created this rule of money and the greed and going after it and seeking it and trying to acquire it, we all, first we were coming from a place of the ego before we started creating this whole idea of money and what we should have and what our lives should be and what our self image should be and everything else that we deem as important, quote unquote. First, there had to have been an ego to create what this image of money and money means, and going after it and acquiring it, and important we make money, and that determine how, I guess, whether we're greedy or not for money. It started first within our self image and the ego of what we consider highly important. So, my message to you today is, do not lead from the ego. Try to have some control over that ego because it's dangerous, and in the long run, it won't be um, a successful road to lead from the ego. Okay, so that's my message to you today. Do not lead from the ego and try to have control of the ego because it's dangerous, and you think it's powerful, but it's not. It's actually dangerous. And just think about all the things that I mentioned of how the ego can be dangerous and lead you to danger. And think of all the evils, all the wars, all the problems, all the violence, all the crime, um, most of the crime of our society and the evils of society. When you think about it, it really all comes from the ego. And so, my message to you today is, do not lead from your ego, but try to lead from your authentic self, and you will be a lot better off in your life. I thank you for tuning in and listening to my video today. If this message was at all helpful to you, or if you appreciate my channel or my message or any of my messages, then I would really appreciate that you like, subscribe, and make any comments that you wish to make in the comment section below. I thank you all. I appreciate you all. And from my heart to yours, peace, love, and joy. This is Annie from Eagle Eyes. Until next time, thanks a lot for tuning in.